I'm Tim Kittro, and here to bring home the bacon are Big Ryan the Fat Guy.
What's going on, guys? Big Rye coming at you with the NFL picks against the spread for Week 16 of the 22-23 NFL season. Fat Guy 110, 107, and 7, good for 50.7% against the spread. But like I always say, on to the Thursday night game. Jacksonville Jaguars at the New York Jets. Jets +1 at home. 23% of early bettors on the Jets. Fat Guy, who do you got against the spread, but who do you want to win their division?
Oh, Big Rye making me spill the tea. I think that's better than spill the beans. I heard it in a song, and I was like, I wonder which one's better, which name's better. Anyways, we're gonna take the Jets, but in real life, I'm pulling for the Jags. Old Fat Guy's got +800 on Jags to win the division. Although I saw it at +600 now, and I was like, it feels better than that, But again, that. All those like permutations and stuff gets kind of complicated. There's 3 games left. There's a lot that can happen, and they're down a game. Even though they play Tennessee, like there's just a lot of permutations because that game could still be meaningless technically. Anyways, we're going to be taking Jets in the contest. This is a contest pick. The juice is favoring the Jets. A consensus line, you could say, favors the Jets. And that'll be the play here. I'm suspecting that Quinnen Williams is playing, and it's kind of like one of those games where it's good defense and against a good quarterback, like on the road, like kind of a classical matchup. It's hard to is Trevor Lawrence really a good quarterback? I hate the X's and O's stuff, but this is one of those games where the max it could move is -2.5 in either direction. And in my opinion, like 99% of the time, I bet you it's within -2.5 Jags and -2.5 Jets. It's just a very mobile market of points. So I think Jets +1, and I think it might close Jets -1, but that's just such speculation and it's so narrow. Like I'd rather just see if I could grab the best money line available on either team that I had feelings for, or but then again, you don't want to do it opinion based. Long story short, not so short, Jets +1.
And Fat Guy's caught feeling for the Jets. On to the next game. Saturday games this week. Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee -5.5 at home. 37% of early bettors on the Titans. Fat Guy, who you got?
We're going to take a Titans here. This is about as close as it gets here. Like, yeah. I could see this actually trending downwards too, to like Titans -4 flat. I could see that. It's more likely like the most, and I bring up these numbers every week because it's important. It's important. This can't like me and Big Rye are talking. Many years ago I beat a hockey guy who played in the WHL of a lot of money betting on hockey, but it was the idea was he was surprised that I beat him considering I've never really watched a hockey game, or at least that much of it. We weren't playing hockey, we were gambling. You know what I mean? It's all about pricing. This is what this is. It's you're trying to finagle these micro edges here. So beating the closing line is so important is because it has all of the market's opinions blended into it. Now, could you beat the closing line on your own consistently? Yes, but you'd have to be a world-class modeler. And it's just unrealistic to think that any audience is going to be. So we have to speak to what's available to us, and beating the closing line is the best thing we can do through some sort of early market predictive forces. That being said, the gap between 5.5 and 3.5 is the most mobile you'll see in a market because the win probability between being a 5.5 point favorite and a 3.5 point favorite is very minimal between, let's just say 5.5 and even 6.5, because 6 is such a key number. It has much more high of a frequency since the change in extra point rules. That being said, I could see this close around a 4, and I could see, it's possible that there could be closing line value on the Texans, but we're going to be taking the Titans anyways, just because I'd rather gamble. It's so close anyways. I'd rather gamble on the, like, if I lost value between 5.5 and 4, that's not really a big deal. If it went to 6 or 6.5, the push frequency on 6 is really high. So I would rather lose downwards than upwards. So in a coin flip situation, take the Titans.
Fat Guy, next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, who are 10-point favorites at home. 44% of early bettors on the Chiefs, and we were checking. Closing line value on the Chiefs this year has been terrible. They're 3-10-1 against the spread. Does that trend continue here with this? Is 10 points too much for Kansas City?
Probably. Like, see, this is where like the sample's just not large enough. Like, Kansas City is winning by an average margin. Big Ride pointed out to me earlier of 7 roughly. So, but the spreads have been always 10 and 14, but maybe they should be. You know what I mean? Maybe Kansas City. This is funny to say out loud. Maybe Kansas City is running under expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a possibility, right? I do think there is some very poor coaching in terms of, I guess we'll call it end of the game and fourth down decisions within Kansas City, but that could be trending in the right direction. I saw Buffalo make some good choices regarding that. So, I mean, it is possible. They're getting the W's too, and that's really what matters. Covering the spread for a team is completely irrelevant. So, we're talking about this game, the Seahawks on the road against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think 10 is probably too many. I think 9.5 is probably the consensus. And if you can get 10 at like minus 105 or better for the Seahawks, I would take it. So 10 at minus 105 or better for the Seahawks, as long as it doesn't close. If you get that earlier, within a day and a half earlier. I know I say this is the price, but what I'm saying is don't do that at close, because then I'm clearly wrong. You see how that works? So I think 10 minus 1.5, minus 105 is probably a good price for Seattle. Conversely, minus 9.5 at probably, plus 102 is probably good for the Chiefs. So we're going to be taking in the contest Seattle Seahawks plus 10.
On to some 5-star entertainment between the Detroit Lions and
Actually,
Carolina
yes.
Panthers. Panthers plus 3 at home. 29% of early bettors are on the Panthers. Fat guy, people have, the Detroit Lions have been proving themselves week after week. Do you think they deserve these 3 points on the road?
No, I think this is a 2.5 point game. I really do. So I'm happy to take the Panthers in real life. Here's the thing too. I might even money line them. Like,
yeah, I think so too.
That might be a play here. Of course, I'm going to have to do some homework, some math. We thankfully for Google Sheets, we have all that at our disposal to be able to figure out what the best price is. It might, like, here's the thing. You could say, oh, I like them on the money line. Well, at what price? Like, if you're getting better value at a 2.5 point evaluation, then you take that. You just do, right? If you're getting, if there's a decoupling at one book and there's just a money line that is bigger than it should be, then you take that. So you shouldn't be like, leaning one way. I'm just saying I'm probably going to, like, in the basket of choices, I'm more likely to take a money line, but it's not going to be steadfast. It's just where I'm probably going to look harder first, if that makes sense, because in reality the prices should make your decisions, not you. Like, this is a lot of these are just math puzzles. Your opinion isn't going to beat the markets, and very, very often, if it is, God bless you, you're going to do very well if your opinion can beat the market. So it's going to be Carolina plus 3. I think it should be 2.5. That hook does offer some value, and I'm going to shop around to see what's better. Carolina plus 2.5 if I can get that. If I can get plus 3 and it's better than what the money line's offering, then absolutely I'm going to do that as well. But, if it ends up being Carolina plus 2.5, I'd be interested in that as well, but probably if at a good money line price. So Carolina plus 3 in the contest and probably in real life.
Back on to the next game, which is going to be the New York Giants traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, who are 3-point favorites at home. Another 5-star entertainment game, to be honest. 80% of early bettors on the Vikings. Fat guy, who you got?
This is going to be, in the contest, we get minus 3 plus 100. So it's going to be a Minnesota pick here. I think that this is one of those ones where it's going to be hard to get it to go to 3.5. So 3 is just right. So then when you're betting, if you like the Giants plus 3, then the onus is going to be on you to shop and time it for the best possible juice, right? And then if you like the Vikings, it's the same strategy. The only issue is, like, that juice has got to be pretty off market, which is harder to do, because I would be like, the later we get on in these games, and this is probably the hardest move. Moving to 2.5 and 3.5 is really drastic. So it's the most drastic of any number in the NFL. So if you get a late season opener at 3 and the juice is kind of minimal in the opener, it's very, very hard pressed to get it to move to 2.5 or 3.5. So chances are this might be just an unbeatable line, right? But then you could also find then if you're trying to find value in a game, there might be someone that offers Minnesota to win by 3 specifically at an off-market price. You'd have to game that yourself, right? So, because that's probably should, like if I got Minnesota to win by 3 at plus 1,300, I would take that. So there's always creative ways you could do that, because this is probably a 9% probability that Minnesota wins by 3. I'd have to look through it and go through all my stuff, but because that would be roughly a plus 1,100. So plus 1,300, I'd probably get 1% roughly, the gap between plus 1,300 and see what I mean? And then that expected value would be worth 1% roughly of what you bet. So really going around in circles, fat guy. So I thought it'd be better with a partner on here. Apparently not. Minnesota -3 in the contest.
On to the next game, which is going to be the Buffalo Bills traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. 8.5-point underdogs at home. 55% of early bettors on the Bears. Fat guy, this is just one of those ones that's kind of, it's there, right?
Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is a good number. And this is, it feels good, like the Philadelphia number felt good. You know what I mean? It just feels steady. This is a tough one to pick. They all are at this stage. But literally, the contest we set up is as if an intruder has the gun behind this green screen just pressed right up at the back of my chair. That's what it feels like, because a lot of these games I just say pass. That's why I say contest pick. Contest pick means I would only take them in this contest, where I guess we have some reputational skin in the game, but I mean, that's pretty fleeting for you and I, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to be taking Buffalo here. I'm wearing the toque. I guess that would be some sort of reasoning. And it is a toque. It's not a beanie. So I wouldn't bet this game. It's purely a contest pick. But to the guy behind the screen with a gun pressed firmly against this chair, it will be Buffalo laying the 8.5 points.
Usually I have to pay big bucks to get that kind of sensation. On to the next game. Cincinnati Bengals at the New England Patriots. Patriots plus 3.5 at home. Only 10% of early bettors are on the Pats. Fat guy, who you got?
Yeah, that's betting volume was a thing. It's just really lost any of its luster, I feel. So we're gonna take the Pats here. We're gonna take the 3.5 points. I don't want to lay a heavy juice here. If I could get a low juice Pats, I am interested in that. There's things about the Pats though that like Mac Jones isn't like he's cost his team quite a lot of win probability. I almost wonder if Bailey Zappi is the way to go. Is it Zap or Zappy?
I'm going to go with Zappy, but what do I know?
Absolutely. I don't know why I asked you. I'm a fact checker who knows less than I do. What
Bailey
a great
Zapp.
idea. Bailey Zapp. Either way, hope it's Italian. Why would you name a kid Bailey that? Anyways, we're going to take Bailey Zapp. He's not even playing. We're going to take a contest pick, New England plus 3.5, and I think that might be half a point too many. Maybe not, but like half a point too many with like I think 3 with heavy juice on the Bengals makes the most sense. But for now, it's a contest pick, but I am going to keep my eye on that line. So Pats plus 3.5.
Zappy is it's pronounced Zappy apparently, according to this speech modification YouTube video, just like happy but Zappy. Fat guy, on to the next game for whoever that was more for us than anyone else. Atlanta Falcons at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens minus 6.5 at home. 64% of early bettors are on the Ravens. Fat guy, who you got?
Absolutely the Ravens. This is a big edge if you can get 6.5 points with even heavy juice. It's good. Like if you can get minus 6.5, minus 120, that's a good price. Good price. If you can get -7, minus 112 or better, that's a good price. -7.5 is probably equilibrium, probably losing both sides. So this is an easy pick in real life. It's an easy pick in the contest. The pricing is good. That being said, if I can get Atlanta at plus money at plus 7.5, I would also take that. So at 6.5, if you can get that before closing, I would highly recommend doing so. Baltimore Ravens minus 6.5.
Next up, we have the Saints traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns, who are 3-point favorites at home. 65% of early bettors are on the Cleveland Browns. Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, we're going to be taking the New Orleans Saints. It's probably the way to go. This is trending towards the lowest total in the history of football betting. So I think it was a Browns-Bengals game at 31 at one point. This could hit that. However, conversely, though, I always say that like the best way for an amateur bettor to gain an edge is to be a social media bug and figure out like how to separate the signal and the noise in terms of injuries. I think the next best one would be a weather guy. Of course, you'd have to understand how a weather would affect the total and how much. That's a whole can of worms on its own. But understanding how to interpret weather reports and how accurate they are at certain stages of the betting market period, and like that would be a way to go. Because for instance, if you're betting parlay sheets that come out on like Tuesday, Wednesday, and you can still bet them, betting stale ones, they have high juice, so this is possible. I do them. You're allowed to bet on them like on Saturday. It's possible this storm could at least lighten, you know what I mean? And this total could bounce up to like 43. Like that could happen. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So if you're an amateur, this is an example of where you could gain immense value in understanding weather trends. I hate the term trends because a lot of people like make a connotation with like X team is, you know what I mean, covered in Cleveland when it's been snowy X amount of time since 1970. None of that's relevant. That stuff doesn't work. But I mean trends in terms of understanding weather probability and its effect on the total. Like that is a reasonable thing you could go after. And football might be the best one to do. American football might be the best one to do it in. Probably would imagine baseball totals in terms of wind as well. But then you'd have to learn stadium. See, I could be all tangents today. I thought I'd be better with Big Rye here. You know, having a not so straight man just doesn't seem to be doing it for me. So long story short, we're going to take the points in a low total affair, and we're going to take the New Orleans Saints. That might be a really good teaser. Is Saints plus, if you're getting a 6-point teaser, Saints plus 9, just because if there's so few, think of it this way. If you're to graph 30, we'll call it, I don't know, what's the total, Big Rye, right now?
32.
33, 32. So graph 32. So, and the median is 32 points. On one end, you have, the game has to end some way. Okay, on one end, you have 0-0. Well, we'll call it, I don't know what the probability, 1 in 25,000, we could say that. And on one end, you have 70-0. For both teams, right? On both tails. But in the middle, it's 32 points roughly, right? Mm-hmm. So think about even the deviations away, like 44 points to, let's say, 21. So like in that really meaty part of the bell curve, how are you going to come up with distributions where Cleveland wins by 10 or more? There's just, think about if you were to, you pull out that medium part of the bell curve, what population occupies that area with Cleveland by 10 or more? It's going to be really low, right? That's why it's better so to take a dog with lots of points or a teaser with lots of points with a low total. It's just hard for it to happen, right? I hope that made sense to you guys, but this is a really good spot. I would imagine that teasing, I actually have an alt-line calculator here, and I'm just going to give it a quick glance because this is a really important point. And I try and introduce, you know, something interesting every show, and it just, you never know what's going to come up, and this is most assuredly one of them.
Well, I'll interject here too while you take a look. And the total for this game is 32. In the last 778 NFL games, only 16% of these games have finished with 32 or less points. So it just shows you how low that OU is to start. And to give you an idea on the flip side, if it was a really high over, this would be the equivalent to be about a 61 point
interesting
over.
In terms of rarity is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of where the 16% or less of games, and then 84% or more of games is 61. So just to give you an idea just how rare that is. Fat Guy, have you found the stuff that you were taking a look for?
Okay, so it's minus 263. So the average, depending on what your teasers pay out, that's probably only a couple percent edge, but it's still something. You know what I mean? So that's an alternate line of 9. So the average you're looking for, and like it depending on the payout, is about 230. You'd have to do the math. So basically, what you do is you'd extrapolate the no vig win probability, and you take the the odds paid out, and you find like if it's 3 teams pay X to 1, then you square root by 3, and then you try and match that win probability with a no vig line. And usually you'll end up, in this case for a teaser, it's usually about 235, 240, depending on the payout. So this would give you 1.8% edge. I thought it would be bigger. I thought this would be like minus 290, but this could also be an error as well because it's just a calculation, so it's always an estimation.
Fat Guy, let's go on to the next game, which is going to be the Washington Commanders traveling to San Fran to take on the 49ers, who are 7.5-point favorites at home. 84% of early bettors are on San Fran. Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, we're going to take Washington. This hook's probably too much. I think it'll settle down around 7. I don't know if there's any sort of recency bias here creeping up, because usually that doesn't happen in this late in the season, but maybe the Heineke magic has worn off and people really believe in San Francisco because they are a contender. I mean, San Francisco's in the conversation for 3rd best team in the league between Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas, with Buffalo and Kansas. But I have a bias. I really think Philly is the best team in the league by a smidgen, but analytics and odds in the market would make you believe it's Buffalo or Kansas City most likely. But I'm open to that. Anyway, I do think that this is probably a hook too far. So we're going to take Washington Commanders in the contest, and we're going to shop it in real life.
Back on to the next game, which is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, who are 5.5-point favorites at home. And this line is because of Jalen Hurts' uncertainty to play. Correct.
So again, when we were going back on how can I become positive expected value as an amateur bettor, this would be your time. Obviously, this is like not the greatest example because it is a quarterback. You know what I mean? It's not like people don't have their eyes on it. You're going to find more value if you're going to learn of a cluster injury, like 3 linemen get hurt. 3 linemen get hurt. That's almost the same as a quarterback. Not quite, but it's in the conversation in terms of win probability affected. But this, if you knew who was going to play here, you'd be able to
ascertain
some
value.
Sort of ascertain value. Absolutely would be, because a true line I think here is with Gardner Minshew is what, Dallas minus 6.5. Big Rye, what do you think? This feels like a.
I don't think it moves too much, honestly, if Minshew plays, but like it will move. It will move if it's a certainty.
I think it moves a point. It moves a point to 6.5.
I think
really
that's fair
do.
to say.
Yeah. Whereas if Jalen Hurts plays, what is it, a pick'em? The Eagles -1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then also too, this is another good example of like when you're trying to figure out, player worth, is you have to compare what this line. If you figured it out, compare what this line would be with Jalen Hurts. Like if you had data, for instance, the look ahead line before this weekend of Dallas, Philadelphia, compare that line or compare those money lines, because that'd be the easiest one, is if you had a no juice money line on both and then you compared the win probabilities, it'll tell you right there, because I hate using, because Jalen Hurts would be worth, if it's -1, he's worth 6.5 points. That's what it would be. Whereas like if this was a -14 and it goes to 20, that the 6.5 points between, you know what I mean? Like 14 to 20, it's a lot less. So that's why I can't stand when people do that. And it's very common amongst the professional betting Twitter community as well, is to give it a point value, but should really just be, explained in win probability terms. And the gap would be between whatever the look-ahead line was for this, when you remove the money line, when you remove the juice, versus the money line currently. Actually, the money line at close when you remove the juice, because that would tell us everything, right? And it would say Jalen Hurts is worth X amount of percentage, which is very interesting because that'll give you a good idea going forward. If you were able to kind of use some sort of extrapolation to figure out both positions and players, I'm giving you a really good modeling base here. That'll help you going in the future. And also, too, when another player gets injured, you can kind of create boards out of similar players to figure out at least the parameters of how much a player is hurt by learning how much value a complement subtracts when he's also, too, don't forget that what makes this more complicated is it's not just Jalen Hurts getting hurt. It's Jalen Hurts to Gardner Minshew. So there's that in play as well. Sorry, I forgot that step here, but I don't know. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea, give you some more ideas. This is purely going to be a contest pick. It's going to be Dallas -5.5, and he's probably not playing. And this might be the closing line, but you should only bet this as if you had good, solid injury information.
Fat Guy, next up onto the Saturday night game, which is going to be between the Raiders and the Steelers. Steelers 3-point favorites at home. 35% of early bettors are on Pittsburgh. Fat Guy, who you got?
I feel like this is a half point too much. I like the Vegas Raiders in real life at +2.5. It's it's probably. I think they're really. I think it's probably it's probably a good line for the Raiders. If you can get +3, I think it's the way to go. So Raiders +3.
On to the next game. The Sunday early game is going to be Green Bay at Miami. Miami 4-point favorites at home. Miami probably pretty happy to be back home playing in the warmer weather. 42% of early bettors are on Miami. Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, we're going to be taking the Miami Dolphins. I don't have very much ideas on this game. I mean, I've kind of shot my wad for ideas here, for lack of a better term. It always seems like the most inappropriate idiom that you can come up with. That being said, we're going to take Miami here. We're going to lay the 4 points. I think that's probably, it's in that band between 3.5 and 5.5. So I could see mobility going either way. It's going to be a contest pick, Miami -4.
And then on to the Sunday midday game between the Denver Broncos and the LA Rams. Probably a 0-star entertainment game here. Rams +1 at home. 47% of early bettors on the Rams. Fat Guy, who you got?
I think it's Denver. I think this is Denver all the way here. I like them in real life, I think, as well. The coaching is just so abysmal. It's really hard to put money in. I want to see if I can get Denver plus money. That would be the goal for me. Except at close, then I'm clearly wrong. So we're going to take Denver here. We're going to lay the 1 point, and the goal is to get Denver plus money on the money line somewhere.
And then Sunday night, nothing says Christmas more than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, who are 6-point dogs at home. 35% of early bettors are in Arizona.
Christmas.
Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, in a Christmas miracle, we're going to be taking the Tampa Bay Bucks, and we're going to lay the 6 points. Obviously, it's against Colt McCoy. I'm not sure where this is going to close, but I think it's more likely to favor the Bucks. I think this closes at possibly 6.5. So I don't want to give up that push frequency on 6. So the short selection of these last few will be Bucks -6 with possibly some closing line value of a half point.
And even though it's a Monday game, Jeff Saturday and the Indianapolis Colts host the LA Chargers.
Blowing the biggest lead ever. Had to cut you off.
That's crazy. Colts +4 at home. 24% of early bettors are on the Colts. Who are the 24% betting Colts?
I don't know. They must know something. I always love that saying. It's a big assumption that 24% of a betting populace knows something.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to lay 4 points with LAC. Again, it falls in the band of 3.5 to 5.5, and I think there's some mobility. But then again, I don't mind laying 4 points. I don't mind doing it with the Chargers, but this is just a contest pick.
And then on to the lightning round here. Jacksonville at the New York Jets.
New York Jets +1.
Houston at Tennessee.
Tennessee -5.5.
Seattle at Kansas City.
Seattle -10.
Detroit at Carolina.
Carolina +3.
Giants at Minnesota.
Minnesota -3.
Bills Bears.
Bills -8.5.
Bengals Pats.
Pats +3.5.
Falcons, Ravens.
Ravens minus 6.5.
Saints, Browns.
New Orleans plus 3.
Washington at San Fran.
Skins plus 7.5. Commanders.
Eagles at Cowboys.
Cowboys minus 5.5.
Raiders at Steelers.
Raiders plus 3.
Packers at Dolphins.
Dolphins minus 4.
Broncos, Rams.
Denver minus 1. Try and get plus money on the money line.
Bucks, Cardinals.
Tampa Bay minus 6.
Chargers, Colts.
LAC minus 4.
How dare you disrespect the Washington football team like that? Just skipping over names like it didn't even happen. Congratulations to Cash Only No Checks. Week 15 winner against the spread. On fire this week. 12-3-1. Good for 80%. And as you can see here, it was a very, very strong week in the contest. Cash Only No Checks, 12 for 16 essentially 12 for 15 with that draw. Fat Guy's best friend, Detroit's Kneecaps at 11 wins. Asher, Shiv Picks, Billy 369. Nice Guys finished last, all at 10 wins. And Fat Guy, we snuck in there at 9-6-1. I can't remember the last time we were on the leaderboard. It's been a tough few weeks. But congrats again to CEO Eric Hayden. 123 wins, 224 games, 56.7%. In fact, we've snuck in. We're in the top 10 right now, tied for 9th. Well, no, we're 10th. We're 2 games back there as far as games played, but 110 wins at 224 games. Nice to be above 50%.
We'll get back to you, Mussman the Busman. We'll get back to you. There's a lot going around in the background.
JS715, name of the week, honorable mentions. Fat Guy, take it away.
Somebody took my beanie. Love it. Is Giselle better at modeling than Fat Guy? I hope so. Death to Power Rankings. Professional analytical therapist. Big Rye in the way of the juice. Fat Guy off his game like when Giselle left Tom Brady. A lot of Giselle stuff. Giselle's favorite Brady Bunch character is Peter. It used to be Tom. Big Rye is the voice of Cleveland from Fat Guy. I don't see it.
This is the JS715 Name of the Week. Whoa, kaboom!
JSM15 Name of the Week. Dating myself, not unless I drop my standards.
Thank you to our channel members again, $5 a month. You can join the Discord and get all the lovely information, not from just Fat Guy and I, but really from the other lovely people in
community
this
as a whole.
There was actually a bomb dropped about horse racing, but you got to join the Discord if you want to see that kind of stuff. Make your picks against the spread for Week 16 at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. Fat Guy, that's it. Week 16 picks against the spread in the books. There's actually quite a few interesting games this week. Obviously, Saturday is Christmas Eve and another special day as well. Sunday, Christmas. So there's games all week. If you're a DJ and don't have family, this is the week to watch and bet NFL.
Yeah, and NBA too on all day Christmas. There's a lot out there for you.
Yeah, this is a fun week. So you guys, good luck for your picks against the spread. Good luck for your bets and your plays this week. And Merry Christmas from the Fat Guy and I.